Hey, Matt, it's good to see you. We are tackling a very important question today. Are annuities a good investment? As stocks struggle, sales of annuities reached record highs in the second quarter of 2022, actually to 77.5 billion. That's the highest quarterly sales ever recorded. We've talked a lot about creating stable income in retirement. So I want to get started with fixed rate annuities because they saw the biggest bump. What are they?
Good. The fixed rate annuity is basically think of it like a CD from a bank. A
Okay.
CD is going to give you a fixed rate of return for a set period of time. You know what you're going to get. You can do the math on day one and know how much you're going to make. A fixed annuity is similar to that. The only difference really is it's backed by one of the main difference I should say is it's backed by an insurance company instead of the bank. But we can get a fixed rate of return for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, whatever it is that we like, and we know what we're going to make on day one.
Okay. As we take a look at annuities by risk here, at the other end of the spectrum, we have variable annuities. What are they?
Good question. This is the type of product that I think gives annuities a bad name. For example, I have a friend at a church I went to one time. He's a CPA, and he was talking. He came up to me and said, "Matt, you don't do those annuities, do you?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, what type of annuity are you talking about?" And he looked at me like a deer in the headlights, not knowing there was multiple type of annuities. And I said, "Well, yeah, I think you're talking about a variable annuity, and generally speaking, I don't do those." A variable annuity is an annuity that's going to have mutual funds inside of it where you can pick your investments. And what
Hmm.
that generally means is there can be risk of loss. What it also means is there's fees built into the product on top of the other fees. So the average annuity, variable annuity, is going to have about a 4% fee. And that's before you tag on other riders. You can add a long-term care rider, you can add a principal protection rider, but then you're adding fees on fees, and they get pretty expensive. A variable annuity is what we used to do back in the broker dealer world. It's not anything I personally do at this time, just because I think there's better options.
Okay. And then the other option that I hear a lot about are indexed annuities. What are these?
An indexed annuity, in my opinion, is the best of both worlds. So you can have a fixed bucket that's paying, let's say, 5%, guaranteed, but you also have upside potential. So for example, it could be indexed against the S&P 500. So if the market goes up, you go up with it. It'll go up to a cap. Like let's say the cap is 10%, the market went up 20%, you're getting your 10, you're not going to get anything beyond the cap. At the same time, it's principal protected. So if the market drops 20%, you don't lose anything because you have a guaranteed floor of zero. So it's really
Okay.
the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Okay.
And again, no fee. So
Oh, good. So
yeah.
would you recommend risk averse investors allocate a portion of their bond portfolio to annuities?
Well, if you look at how bonds have performed this year, I would
I don't
definitely
want
say
to.
yes.
Too painful.
Yes, I would definitely say yes. Yeah, the bond market was down heavily, 18% beginning of the year. And years ago, before this year, Ibison put out a big report showing how fixed annuities have outperformed bonds for years. So I would consider it for part of the 40% portion of their portfolio. I would not do it for all, just because there's some alternative things that we can substitute in that sector that I think will perform better over time. But I would consider it for part.
Okay. So then what are the scenarios where you are recommending annuities to your clients?
First and foremost would be that client that number one is risk adverse, but
Mhm.
number two, they're really keeping most of their money in cash at the bank.
Mm,
I mean, what are you going to get at the bank now? 1%.
maybe.
We can move that over to a fixed annuity that's guaranteed, principal protected, no fee, paying 5%. So even I saw a 3 year today that came out at almost 4%, 3.5. So number one, the client that has a lot of lazy money just sitting in the bank, I would consider putting some of that in an index or a fixed annuity.
Okay.
And then of course, the other part would be that client that we talked about with the 60/40 portfolio. I wouldn't take all the 40 because you need to have growth potential that'll beat inflation, but I would consider part of that for the 40%.
And so if I do choose to get an annuity, what do I need to be aware of?
I think the biggest thing to be aware of is the surrender penalties. Well, number one, make sure you're doing one that doesn't have a fee. I don't see a reason to do that. But number two is look at the surrender penalty period. So, for example, most annuities, if you put 100 grand in today and then 3 months from now you want to take 100 grand out, you're going to have, let's say, a 10% penalty. But most of them also allow you to take out 10% a year without penalty. So just keep in mind, it's not a short-term investment. It's not like the ATM or the bank. So do not replace that part of your life. You still need the bank money. But the big
Mhm.
thing I would consider is liquidity issues because there are surrender penalty periods.
Thank you very much for talking this through because, like you said, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about this. But if somebody has questions about anything that we've covered today, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to catch us is by phone, 425-256-3105. You can also email me at mburklund@choosevault.com.
All right. That is wonderful. Matt, thank you very much for your help today.
Thanks, Erin. Have a great day.